Hello, all you space swimmers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
It's dangerous to swim in space. Don't do it.
Not recommended, but if you can do it.
I guess if you can do it, then yeah, sure. Enjoy yourself.
This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What up?
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9, Season 7, Episode 14, Chimera. Alternate title, Laz and Odo, or...
Okay. Stretching a little bit there.
Perfectly smooth and unforced pun, in my opinion. This episode originally aired February 17th, 1999, and it was written by Renee Echevarria and directed by Steve Posey.
Good old Posey.
Do we know Posey?
I don't know. Hold on, let's see. I think we do, because I show that I've clicked his name before. Let's see. He did... previously he did Treachery, Faith, and the Great River.
Oh,
that's the only one that he's done so far. Although he has two more after this. Two more Deep Space Nines after this.
That was a good episode, so. Sarah Clofton is not in the episode.
Nope.
We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, but not after this episode, so it is safe to watch along with us if you have not ever watched Star Trek Deep Space Nine before. Safe-ish. But other stuff we will spoil, so watch out. We don't have a spoiler policy for, Lost or anything, so.
There's a smoke monster.
Mm-hmm. Dude, the smoke monster is a dude who fell in a hole.
Yeah, somehow.
We might need people to spoil Lost for us.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to come back and let us know how that works? That'd be great.
Yeah. But first things first, how would you rate the title Chimera?
Okay, so there's a note in here about the title. And in case you didn't know, the title is a reference to Greek mythology. Chimera was the daughter of Typhon and Echidna, sister to Cerberus and the Hydra. And legend says that she had 3 heads, the head of a lion, the head of a dragon, and the head of a goat, in parentheses, which could breathe fire. So
the goat could breathe fire?
Apparently, yeah.
But not the dragon?
I guess not.
Okay.
Or maybe they could all breathe fire, and it was just weird for the goat. I don't know. Anyway.
Right. We have to point out, the goat can also breathe fire.
Yeah. It says, obviously, the reference for the episode is to be found in Laz's ability to be anything. Similarly, Chimera was no one thing. Interestingly, Chimera was ultimately slain by Bellerophon, riding on the winged horse Pegasus, and the next episode of the show, very tiny spoiler, will feature the USS Bellerophon.
Oh my goodness.
So maybe Laz secretly dies to the Bellerophon somehow next episode. But
wow, what deep, mythological references we're getting.
Yeah, so, I mean, I get it. I get, Laz can be anything. Chimera is, multiple things. I don't know that it's particularly memorable for me, or clever, or even all that fitting. I get what they're going for. I'm just it...
Yeah, why does this shapeshifter in particular get the Chimera?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it's kind of okay, I guess. I just conceptually, I like it. I like it as a title. I don't know that I like it with this episode that much.
Yeah, it just seems like kind of a, I don't know, sloppy shapeshifter reference.
Yeah.
With no real connection to the episode's actual story or themes.
And there's plenty of other shapeshifter references you could have made that would have been closer, probably. I mean, you could have gone The Thing, and I would have been like, oh, yeah, okay.
Sure. Maybe.
That'd be a weird name for a Deep Space Nine episode, but anyway.
Yeah, that's they don't really make such blatant allusions like that. But
maybe they should.
True. But Chief O'Brien and Odo are coming home on a runabout from one of these mini conferences we're always going to.
Yeah, we never see the conferences. They should have had an episode at a conference where, something wacky's happening. there's a shapeshifter infiltrator or a murder goes down or something, and it's like O'Brien's sitting in like a lecture hall and somebody's going on about warp this and that, and all of a sudden he has to leave because somebody was murdered. It could have been interesting.
Yeah. If I had my text document open that has my list of episode ideas, I'd put that in there.
For some reason in my head, it's Murder on the Orient Express, but at a conference.
Nice. And then Odo is Poirot.
Yes, it's Poirot, exactly.
I mean, what conference caters to these exact two people? Who knows?
It is a weird combo, for sure.
The chief wakes up from a nap to find that they're almost home, and that Odo is examining a really tacky plastic crystal prism thing, which Odo explains is a knick-knack he got for Kira from the conference.
And it's like literally just a knick-knack. Like, more specific than that, who knows?
But this causes the chief to get upset because he forgot to get something for Keiko, who definitely still exists.
Yeah, no, she's totally there somewhere.
She's on the station. I mean, you see her all the time, right? Trust me.
She's hanging out with Sarah Clofton and, doing stuff.
Yep, totally. They're always off doing something, who knows.
Yep.
The chief also sees that Odo got Kira some chocolates, which I have to say seems like a much better gift.
100%, yes. It's like their chocolates. She's like, oh yeah, these are her favorite chocolates. So like this is something she specifically likes, as opposed to this other thing that was just like, yeah, I saw it and I was like, yeah, why not? That's a thing.
And also I think these are the chocolates that we've seen before are Keiko's favorite, right? Or maybe it's like the Regalian chocolates or something.
I honestly don't remember. Okay, hold on. Let's see if it mentions it. The chocolate. Yeah, Regalian chocolates. Let's see. Have we seen those? No. This seems to be the first time that Regalian chocolates are mentioned, according to Memory Alpha.
Because I remember the episode where the Pa Wraith inhabited Keiko. O'Brien got her those chocolates that I thought were her favorites. But I guess they were a different kind of chocolates.
Yeah, hold on. That was like the assignment? That was Delavian chocolates, apparently.
Totally different.
And then
Delavian, Regalian. Yeah.
The one that I remembered wasn't even that. I remembered early on that in that episode where Garrick blows up his own shop, like he's telling Bashir about how he just got in some of these something or other chocolates, and he's like, I'll save you some.
Huh. So there's lots of chocolates in the Star Trek universe, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the chief offers to buy the chocolates off Odo, but Odo says no. And then there's a familiar beeping noise. Damn it, says the chief. We're almost home. Do we really have to go to some random planet for some bullshit?
It's going to be one of those things where, they go to the planet and then they get transported 100 years back in time or some crap.
Yeah, someone's going in a hot box. I mean, who knows? But luckily today the bullshit is coming straight to them, no detour required. It's some kind of big space fish, propelling itself through the vacuum of space through some unknown mechanism.
Yeah, apparently, like, the note says that they recently did a space-dwelling life form in the Voyager episode Elogium, and so they're like, hey, maybe we just reuse that same footage of the computer-generated model for this? And then they're like, no, we need a brand new design, damn it.
Yeah.
So
I think the fans would notice that.
Well, no, the thing is, you could do that. You could reuse the design of any previous space-dwelling creature, because the whole point is, this guy has seen a space-dwelling creature and copied its form at some point.
But then he would have had to see it in, like, the Delta Quadrant.
Well, I mean, just because it showed up in that one episode in the Delta Quadrant doesn't mean that's the only place where it is, probably.
Okay. So, I guess they missed their opportunity to cut a corner there, I guess. I give them props for making a new space fish that we see for 3 seconds, but... So the space fish flies right up beside the runabout and seems to vanish, but there's some weird banging sounds coming from the vents. And then suddenly a bunch of golden goo starts oozing from a vent and morphs into a humanoid form. A very familiar looking humanoid form.
I mean, come on, shapeshifter going through the vents, it's very the thing.
Oh yeah. But it's a changeling, says Odo. And something looks familiar about this changeling. I can't quite put my finger on it. But O'Brien points a phaser at the intruding changeling, who seems more interested in Odo than O'Brien. He calls Odo a metamorph, and O'Brien a monoform. I have no idea how the universal translator comes up with these incredibly specific words, but whatever.
I mean, a word meaning one form, I buy that, that's... It does make me wonder if, like, the founders know how to turn into, like, space-dwelling life forms that can travel at warp, or, fire and stuff. I was like, have we never seen any of this before?
Is this something this one guy just discovered all on his own?
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess he must have to travel at warp to get anywhere.
Yeah, you would think. Otherwise, he's traveling for a very long time, and I don't think he said he was that old. So...
Right. Yeah, he said he was 200 years old, so...
they could infiltrate the Alpha Quadrant super easily if they were just, some creature traveling at warp. They don't have to have a ship. They're just chilling out. Of course, you have to come through the wormhole, I guess.
Right. And this changeling is played by Garmin Hertzler, so...
Yeah, hold on. There's a whole explanation of that in here. Let me see if I can find that one.
Oh, okay.
So, J.G. Hertzler normally portrays General Martok, although he previously appeared in the pilot episode Emissary as Saratoga Captain, and then he was credited as John Noah Hertzler. For the role of Laws, he's credited as Garmin Hertzler. Hertzler's real name is John Garmin Hertzler, but he does not like the name John, so taking a cue from his friend J.T. Walsh, Hertzler decided to start going by his initials. But when shooting Emissary, he hadn't come up with that idea yet, so he called himself John Noah, his own name and his grandfather's name.
Okay, but it's John. John is the name he hates, right?
Yes.
So he kept the John part.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. But the best part is, during production of this episode, Hertzler himself started a rumor that Garmin was his reclusive brother from New York, which is something that, according to this, some fans still think is true, and some websites continue to claim is in fact the case.
Okay, so is this like who is that Andy Kaufman character that he would pretend to be a completely different person?
Oh, I mean, several Andy Kaufman characters, really, but yeah, I know who you're... Hold on, let me look that up. It's like Vic, or...
It was like, I want to say it was like Bob something.
Hold on, let's see. Not Lodka. Tony Clifton.
Oh,
that
Tony
was the
Clifton,
guy's name. He's
right.
a lounge singer.
So is he just walking around set being like, no, I'm Garmin. And people would have to like play along with him.
Maybe. Like, who knows how into it he really got. But it also mentions that they cast J.G. Hertzler for this. Okay, so specifically, they went into this and they auditioned a lot of people, but they couldn't find anyone that they felt could, like, go toe-to-toe with Rene Auberjonois. They're like, we need somebody who can, like, just really do this on the same level as Rene. And it's just such a complex character. So they're like, okay, well, maybe we give it to someone that we already know, because, like, somebody who we know is good and can handle this. And then Ira Stephen Bear's like, hey, maybe we should give it to Jeffrey Combs.
Ooh.
But they were like, oh, wait, he's already playing, like, 2 recurring characters right now. Maybe that's not a good idea.
That would also be a little bit weird, because he's played across Odo many times as Wayun.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, I know. We'll give it to Andrew J. Robinson. But then they were like, well, wait a second. Andrew J. Robinson has this, like, super distinctive voice. And, like, people are going to know that it is him. And also, fans knew that Garrick too well and were too protective of that character to approve of him playing someone else, they felt. So they're like, all right, who else do we have on this show? Martok, we'll get that guy.
Who does not have a distinctive voice, apparently.
Well, so Laws in the episode has a very distinctive way of speaking, which, according to Hertzler, he took from William Shatner.
Huh.
So he says, I wanted to find a way to keep this character sort of annoyingly judgmental because of his politics. He felt that humanoids were so far beneath him that it was like talking to dogs. And he has like this pro-environmentalist viewpoint that he's very passionate about. And that reminded me of James Kirk. William Shatner has a theatrical way of delivering lines by taking breathing pauses and holding on to the ends of words. And I was like, hey, that works for Laws. So it's just basically my best imitation of William Shatner as Kirk.
I mean, I didn't pick up on that, but, whatever works for you.
Yeah, you got him there.
I think if you would have had to say, like, somebody has no honor, that would have killed it, but...
Laws doesn't care about honor.
So anyway, O'Brien points a phaser at the intruding changeling.
Which you would do. That's smart.
Yeah. Oh no. So yeah, the strange man who forced his way into the ship uninvited and without so much as an introduction or explanation seems baffled that anybody would point a phaser at him, establishing a pattern of disingenuous victimhood that will continue through the whole episode.
I mean, I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're not wrong.
He claims to not know who the founders are. In fact, he says he's never seen another changeling before. And Odo, the most cynical, distrusting person in the entire history of Star Trek, immediately takes him at his word.
He's like, oh no, yeah, I'm sure that he's 100% correct. Or truthful.
He deduces this must be another member of the 100, the changeling infants sent out by the founders in their incredibly stupid Baby Explorers program.
Yeah. Well, especially now that they've abandoned, like, their home planet in the Omarian Nebula to, like, you know, decoy the Cardassians and the Romulans in, because they apparently programmed all of the babies to want to go there. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, he now no longer has that weird homing instinct or whatever.
I mean, he may still have a homing instinct to go to the Omarian Nebula, but there's nobody there anymore. So
yeah, he would be like, where is it? Why is this planet like all destroyed?
This sucks.
Or I guess did the planet ever actually get destroyed? I forget.
I mean, they started the attack and instantly destroyed like 40% of the crust or something like that. So It's probably pretty messed up.
I was trying to remember if that was real or if that was like a fake thing that they projected in their
No, I think they were projecting the life signs, and when the life signs didn't change after they destroyed like almost half the planet's surface, they're like, wait, something's wrong here.
Oh, okay.
I just recently had to rewatch that episode in my watch through, so you know.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you have a fresher memory. The intruder offers to let himself be taken prisoner in good faith, which we will soon learn he does not actually have a single ounce of in his being. But he will only do this if Odo vouches for his safety, as he does not trust humanoids. Back on the station, Odo explains the situation to Captain Sisko. Odo argues that the changeling can't be a founder because he shows no signs of being infected by the changeling virus that all the founders have.
I mean, unless he was a founder who left before that, you know, just saying.
Right, yeah. First of all, he specifically says that the new changeling's morphogenic matrix is just as stable as his own, so keep that in mind.
I mean, why would we want to keep something like that in mind?
Oh, I don't know. So, if he's a founder, it means that either there's such a thing as asymptomatic carriers of this virus, or there are changelings out there that, as you mentioned, haven't been to the Great Link for a while. But I wouldn't worry about that, because that would imply that this is some kind of elaborate ruse to infiltrate Deep Space Nine and gain our trust, and the founders have never done anything sneaky like that.
Well, quite frankly, like, they would be sneakier than this, probably, because they wouldn't believe that anyone would be dumb enough to believe it.
Oh, that's true. They'd be like, oh, there's no way Odo's going to go for this. Yeah, let's not do that. That's true. So Odo asks Sisko to release the changeling to his custody. Sisko is reluctant, but I guess he's tired of having this conversation, so he just says, okay, whatever. Then, in a really cool long tracking shot down the promenade, Odo and the new changeling, whose name is Laz, as we've mentioned many times, catch up. Laz says he doesn't understand the founders' desire to conquer the solids, better to avoid them altogether, so somehow he's more racist than the founders. He knows from experience that humanoids don't much care for changelings, and I would hypothesize perhaps this is because the only humanoids he's met are ones that have had to put up with him.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe it's because you're the only changeling they ever met, and you haven't left a great impression.
Like they say, if everybody they meet is an asshole, who's really the asshole? But Odo says, no, the humanoids here are cool. And then Laz asks, well, is that why you choose to stay here? And Odo says, yeah, and the founders kind of suck, so I don't want anything to do with them. And Laz is like, okay, but those aren't your only two options. I mean, what about the other members of the 100? You never wanted to go look for them? There's got to be like 98 of them left.
Well, okay, so I mean, Odo never mentions it, but we did see another baby changeling in the course of the show, and that one is dead now.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe down to 97. It wasn't explicit that was one of the 100, but I feel like there's a good possibility.
I totally forgot about that.
There's a note in here that Odo asks Laws, "You've never met another shapeshifter? This is the second and final time since the discovery of the Dominion that Odo is referred to as a shapeshifter instead of changeling. The other one being Damar using it in Treachery, Faith, and the Great River, which is the previous one directed by this guy. So I feel like he's bringing that shapeshifter stuff in here.
Like, we need to say that shapeshifter. I really like that phrase. But Odo says, no, my life is here. Plus, it's a huge galaxy. I mean, you make it sound like I could have been spending the last few years systematically calling around to various planets, asking if they'd ever seen any changelings. Oh, wait, why haven't I been doing that?
Well, I mean, at this point...
oh, yeah, probably not a very, smart move now, but... Laz also says that he's at least 200 years old, sparking speculation that maybe he was sent out earlier, or maybe Odo was just adrift longer. I don't know. They seem to be anticipating conversations people are going to have at home.
They're like, we're going to make it vague enough that you can decide whatever you want.
We're not going to answer anything. We're gonna have that conversation with you.
Yeah. We do know Odo was found in the Denorius Belt, so there's no telling how long I guess he could have been out there.
True.
And Laws apparently was on a planet, it's what it sounds like, so maybe that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because didn't they used to consider the Denorius Belt kind of like a Bermuda Triangle of space or something, so nobody ever went there?
Yeah, exactly.
Laws says he was fascinated by humans at first, like Odo, but he learned to distrust them, as he found that they're not very accepting of things that are different, especially when those different things are complete assholes. Laws looks around at all the different species on the station and says they all have different face bumps and stuff, but none of them are made of goo, so the differences are irreconcilable.
I mean, in a way, he's right. He is definitely more alien than any of the other aliens, but...
I mean, I was just thinking of, who's the guy with the transparent skull? I just imagine him, looking, I was like, look at all these other aliens with their, opaque skulls. I'm the only one with a transparent skull.
I mean, at least that guy has a skull versus, these guys have no bones. Unless they feel like having bones, I guess.
So they go down to Odo's quarters, which Odo offers to let Laz use while Odo is staying elsewhere. Laz looks at the shape-shifting jungle gem thing and notes judgmentally that it hasn't been used in quite some time.
Yeah, how would he... I don't understand that.
I was like, do changelings leave behind some kind of, residue or something? Because that would be gross.
Yeah, for real.
Then Laz sees a picture of Kira and says he had a mate once, but it didn't last. Laz attributes this to his inability to have children, but I suspect personality might have also been a major contributor.
Yeah.
Then Laz brings up a very interesting question, which is, how do changelings reproduce? But Odo basically says it's complicated, which I suspect means he doesn't really know. So he's like, oh, but we do have this thing called the link. And then Laz asks for a demonstration, and Odo obliges, and it's slightly disturbing.
I like the note in here is that when Odo describes it to him, he says it's thought and form, an idea and sensation being shared, which is, it's phrased exactly the same way as when the female changeling explains it to him back in Behind the Lines, which was also written by Renee Ashimari.
Ah.
So he's cribbing from his own stuff.
A little bit of self-plagiarism. I approve. I mean, it makes sense. That would just, that's the way Odo heard it, so. And I think you mean Boom Boom Parkins.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, with the way how they've built this up as being a sexual experience and everything, and every time Odo does it, he has this crazy orgasm face. I was just like, do I want to be watching this?
Hey, he's just all pan or whatever.
All right.
Or changeling section. I don't know what the prefix would be there, but
there is no sexual orientation among changelings. They all get into one giant goo pile. So Laz says for the first time he understands how he's supposed to exist. Odo says, yeah, but the founders suck, so I don't mess with that. And then Laz is like, who are you kidding? We just linked. The only reason you're here is because of Kira. I know for 100% fact, without her, you'd be out with the Founders, genociding it up all over the place.
I mean, you gotta just put that right out there. That's, this guy doesn't have a filter. I feel like this is one of those, this is one of the reasons people don't like you, dude.
Mm-hmm. Later, Kira comes down to Odo's office, interested in the new changeling. Odo tells her that they linked, and Kira's like, well, I don't know how I feel about that, but, whatever, I'd like to meet the guy. So Odo takes Laz to Quark's to meet Bashir, Ezri, Kira, and the Chief, or re-meet the Chief.
Yep.
Laz expertly deflects all their attempts at friendliness with thinly veiled racism, and sometimes not at all veiled racism.
I would say, even thinly is given a lot of credit.
And then when they ask about his home planet, he talks about how the humanoids who live there suck and disrupt the environment, like all solids, and so on and so on.
Yeah, no solids care about the environment.
Yeah. At which point, Quark picks a very poor moment to bring Bashir his steak.
I mean, it's... No, I don't see the problem with it, honestly.
I'd just be like, yeah, give me that steak. That looks good.
I mean, lots of creatures in nature eat the other creatures.
Yeah, he never encountered, of those primitive life forms he loves, he was never a carnivore? Come on.
Also, I kind of assume the steak that you get at Quark's is replicated and he doesn't have a freezer full of meat. So
also true. I mean, Laz gave no indication, I think, of actually being upset by the steak. So
no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like that they were making it out to be a bigger deal than it was, or that Laz cared about. But actually, replicated meat has got to be the best for the environment.
True. If it is replicated, I don't know.
I mean, we know that Quark replicates a lot of his food because he spread the aphasia virus by serving his entire menu out of the replicators on the command level.
Oh yeah, that's right. So Laz says he prefers primitive life forms that exist in their natural state, not humanoids with all their lies and deceptions. And O'Brien says, hey, you're the one that can disguise yourself as whatever you want. And then Laz is smugly like, yes, changelings are not to be trusted. As if he wasn't literally 3 seconds ago explicitly making the exact same accusation about solids.
Well, yeah, but they really shouldn't be trusted.
Right, it's different. I'm right. O'Brien says he trusts Odo, and Laz says, well, of course. Odo's basically an inverse Twinkie. Goo on the outside, solid on the inside.
Wow. Man, I wish that line had been in the script. That's...
So leaving the bar with Laz, Odo was like, what the hell was that? Why are you insulting everybody? And Laz does the good old, what? I thought we had freedom of speech. When did everybody become such snowflakes? And then Laz asks to link with Odo, and Odo's like, no, I'm not going to link with you on the promenade. And Laz is like, why? Are you ashamed to show people you're a changeling? And it's like, dude, there's no possible way you are dense enough that you don't understand what the objection is.
Yeah, he's been around for 200 years. This all of this feels very
contrived,
straw manning it up or whatever.
Yeah, he's he knows what he's doing. Laz asks when the last time he shapeshifted was, and then he gets all judgmental when Odo doesn't immediately remember. And then he does the classy move of pointing out that Odo will probably outlive Kira, so their relationship is pointless.
I mean, really, I don't understand why you're so invested in the hard sell here. You could just wait it out.
Yeah, that's true. Then he invites Odo to drop his life and come out with him to find the rest of the 100, 2 changeling pals out on a great adventure. So later, Odo and Kira are hanging out talking about this, and Odo says obviously he's not going to up and just leave. But Kira says, well, Laz linked with you, so doesn't that mean he knows you secretly actually want to do that? But it's like, no, he's just a manipulative narcissist. And I'd thank you not to give in to his mind games so easily. But Kira is sad that she's not able to link with Odo, which Odo tries to assure her he doesn't care about because he loves her. Then Odo goes back to his quarters where he finds a big flame floating in midair. And Odo's like, what? What the oh, it's Laz.
Oh, you.
And then Laz changes back to his humanoid form and says, aha, you didn't even realize it was me. And Odo's like, yes, I did. There was just a big random flame floating in the middle of the air. wasn't hard to figure that out. But Laz is like, well, come with me and I'll teach you how to be fire and all kinds of other cool things. And Odo says, no, I'm not coming with you. And Laz is like, okay, fine, you want to stay here, no problem. I'll go look by myself, and when I found a few cool changelings, I'll send for you, and we can all have a big changeling party.
I mean, I guess it's true. He's working real hard to sell it, but when Odo's like, no thanks, he's like, all right, well, I'll talk to you later then.
Yeah, this is where Odo makes a crucial mistake, because at this point, I would have been like, okay, you know what, great, that sounds like a good plan, you have a good trip, I'll see you in like 300 years, or whenever you found some more changelings.
Yeah.
But, Odo was like, well, I remind you it took you over 200 years to find one changeling, so maybe you can hang out on the station for just a couple more days? I mean, what's the hurry? And Laz is like, okay, I'll stay and hang out, but just with you. I don't want to spend time around any solids. And then they link.
At least he's very clear on that fact that, like, okay, fine, I'll hang out with you. I don't want to see any of your friends. I want to make it clear to you that I don't care about them at all. Being very upfront about this.
Yep. But later, Odo comes out of his office to find that Laz, who didn't want to spend any time around solids, has now transformed himself into a fog on the promenade and is literally hanging around like dozens of solids.
Because it's funny.
Bashir and O'Brien are annoyed, but Odo's like, look, don't make a thing of it. That's what he wants. And then Laz changes back out of fog form, and Odo's like, come on, what are you doing? And Laz is like, what? I'm just relaxing. Everybody else is doing it. See all these people just disruptively laying down in the middle of the promenade, stringing up hammocks all over the place? Why can't a changeling do it too? And then two Klingons come up and are like, hey, shapeshifter, stop shapeshifting. And then Laz gets all giddy, barely even hiding the fact that this was the exact thing he was trying to provoke. And he goads them into a knife fight, which he easily wins based on the fact that stabbing doesn't hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. They know he's a shapeshifter. I'm really not sure why they're even going for the stab.
These are not the smartest Klingons we've ever met.
That could be said about most of the Klingons on the show, let's be fair.
These are some especially stupid Klingons, I think. It's like, they know he's a shapeshifter. Why are they stabbing?
Yeah,
he turns his hand into a knife and stabs one of the Klingons, killing him.
Yeah, I love how he barely has to move at all. He's just like, oh, stab. Okay. Yep.
Then Odo meets with Sisko and Worf in the captain's office, and they tell him that the Klingons are pressing charges. They're arguing that since Laz knew he couldn't be hurt with a knife, he wasn't justified in responding with deadly force after he got stabbed, which I'm 99.99% sure is not a valid legal argument.
Well, also, like, Odo is claiming that guy was going for his gun, which could have hurt Laz, so...
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, if someone makes, like, such an unmistakably clear attempt to hurt you, like, deadly attempt, you have to assume that they're out to get you, and they're going to continue with any means at their disposal, so...
Yeah, I love the point that Odo makes where he's like, but Klingons fight each other to the death all the time, and nobody ever, like, goes around pressing charges. Right. What the hell is this? And Worf is in the back, like, you can tell that he's like, oh my gosh, he's right, this is so embarrassing. But I have to, like, I can't not see this through.
Yeah, especially, like, the part when Sisko reads the complaint, and it's like, he turned into a fog and surrounded them menacingly. And then Odo's like...
No, he doesn't say that he turned into a fog. It was just like, he surrounded them menacingly. And it was like...
and then Odo's like, well, they were menaced by fog. And that's when Worf gets this look on his face like, you know what? I'm losing my, like, resolve for this this case.
He's like, I have to push through with this because, you know, the Klingons are our allies in this war and all that stuff. But this is embarrassing for everyone.
Right. Odo objects to Laz being extradited, saying Laz clearly won't get a fair trial. Although I'm pretty sure Laz would escape long before going to trial, but, you know, it's the principle that matters. And Sisko says, oh, and also Martok has raised some objections about you being in charge of security. And Odo's like, that's interesting. Where is Martok? I haven't seen him all episode.
Well, he's around. He's busy.
Sure. Sisko says, it's because Odo is a witness. And Odo says, really? I thought you were going to say it was because I was a shapeshifter. What does Martok have against changelings? And it's like, well, he did spend years in brutal Dominion prison while a changeling impersonated him. And Odo's like...
That is a thing that happened, yeah.
Odo's like, oh, right, never mind. And he leaves. But, like, I like that Worf is just kind of, like, standing awkwardly in the doorway, kind of staring into space, and Odo has to kind of walk around him.
Oh, man. I just love this background acknowledgement of, like, yes, this is absurd.
Right. Worf is like, why did I get myself into this? Then Odo runs into Quark, who makes a big speech that's basically like, hey, look, everybody's bigoted, including me. I'm a bigot, and I don't make apologies for it. It's just evolution, and it's probably not a good idea to be shapeshifting all over the place while we're at war with your people, who, by the way, are driven primarily by an ideology of racial superiority. So let's not pretend changelings are these perfect angels either.
I mean, I don't know that Quark mentions that part, although that would be valid.
Well, I editorially added that part in, but still.
Quark's like rant is so targeted and just like so, as you say, like unapologetically racist that I'm like, is like Laws impersonating Quark and just trying to say the thing that will like make Odo want to leave the most, because that's what this feels like to me.
I like this theory.
Because Quark's basically like, all of your friends secretly hate you, and you'll never have any friends that are solids because none of us will ever trust you. And I'm just like, wow, he's just really like laying it out.
Yep.
And I don't know that of course it's Quark, so you often put words in Quark's mouth that are not necessarily true, and
sure.
or that the writers are not trying to say this is a good sentiment. And that's why you have Quark say it, because he's like the greedy, like he's the guy who's always wrong about everything, pretty much. So maybe that works. But according to the note in here, Armin Shimmerman says this speech is one of the 3 speeches he is most proud of from this show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does it say what the other 2 are?
No, it does not. Although I remember a previous episode where...
I remember there's where the one on AR-558, right?
That's not the one I was thinking of. Although, yes, that I think probably is another one. I was thinking of earlier than that. In I think the first episode we meet the Jem'Hadar, where Quark goes off on Sisko about how like humans think they're so much better than us, but like you guys have atrocities in your history that we have nothing like.
Yeah,
and you hate us because we remind you of who you used to be.
Oh yeah, but I'm in this case I'm not even clear like what point Quark was trying to make. Just people are racist, get over it.
Well, and it's interesting because let me go to the initial concept for this episode.
Okay.
Well, first it says that, hey, we wanted to do this episode because we wanted to have a reminder before we get into the final part of this season, how like really conflicted Odo is about like the founders and his place with his people and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, hey, like Odo's decision to not be like part of his people makes a lot of sense, because every single one that we've shown so far is a big evil jerk. Right. So it's real easy for him to be like, no, you are like comically the bad guys and I'm not a bad guy. So
yeah, exactly.
But now we're going to bring in someone who's not one of the founders and be like, hey, you do have other options and still be with your people-ish. So that's part of it.
Sure.
But in the original concept of the episode, it ends very differently from what we're going to see. It ends with Odo being like, you know what? Yeah, humanoids are all racist and speciesist, and I'm going to leave with Laws because all of them suck, and we'll go find those 100 infant changelings. And then, in a last-ditch effort to get Odo to stay, Sisko comes up and he goes, you know what? You're right. All humanoids are racist, and they all do fear the stuff that's different, but that's just the way it is. It's the way humanoids are, and it can't ever change. And Odo is so impressed by Sisko's honesty that he's like, I guess I'll stay after all.
But yeah, that doesn't seem like a belief that Sisko would have.
No, like that does not make sense coming from Sisko at all. And Renee Echevarria is like, yeah, it was preposterous. But the wiki notes that probably some of that ended up in Quark's speech here.
Oh, okay. So Odo goes to visit Laz in the holding cells, and as expected, Laz is eating the situation up. He's loving it. He uses the situation to be like, see how much the solids suck? They only like you because you're pretending not to be superior to them, which we are by our very nature. But they'll turn on you eventually. And apparently he gets into Odo's head, and Odo expresses his frustrations to Kira later about how unfair the situation is, and about how Captain Sisko wouldn't be taking this, like, killing openly on the promenade seriously if the killer wasn't a changeling. And then he reminds Kira that this isn't even his true form. It's just a facade he puts on. And Kira's like, yeah, but you choose this form. I mean, everybody solid and changeling, like, you make this choice of how you present yourself to the world. A presentation that on a good day reflects your authentic inner self. Are you saying that none of that is really real? But Odo is stuck in one of his identity crisis fits and says part of him wishes he could be out there with Laz, looking for the 100 and just being a changeling like he's supposed to be. And Kira is sad and frustrated and basically just says, okay, yeah, whatever, do whatever you want, and then walks out.
It's like, fine, if you want to go.
Then she goes down to see Laz in the holding cell and then turns off the force field, and then she tells Laz to go to an abandoned cave set she knows about. And she'll tell Odo to meet him there. And Laz asks why, and Kira says, because I love him. So Kira, Odo, and Worf meet in the captain's office, where Kira makes up a story about Laz turning into some kind of plasma energy and pushing his way through the force field, which sounds plausible.
I mean, we've seen him be fire, so okay.
Martok is apparently really mad about the situation, wherever he is.
Yeah, not so mad that he's going to show up, but...
Yeah, he's not mad to be here in this meeting, which, okay, so Martok is mad, but it seemed like they were just talking... So, okay, the scene starts when Sisko is like, what? He escaped? As if he's just being informed. Or did he call them in and was like, what? He escaped? I don't know. I guess it has to be that second one.
Yeah, well, yeah, I presume that once he's gone, Kira, immediately calls in from down. It's like, hey, security alert, Laz has escaped. And then people try to find him, but they fail. And so this is like the after-action report on that.
Okay. But yeah, Sisko says he wants Laz caught, and Odo is like, yeah, whatever. And then later in the turbo lift, Kira tells Odo that she helped Laz escape and where to find him, which he acts surprised about, even though I thought they were playing it earlier in the scene that he already knew, but I guess not.
No, yeah, I didn't get that impression. I wanted Sisko here to do like a Tommy Lee Jones The Fugitive speech about like all the outhouses and doghouses and stuff.
All the space houses and cave set houses. Seriously, they need to be like, okay, where are all the cave sets within like a 5 light year radius?
It's always a cave set where they're hiding out, That would be an outtake. It's like, wait, I know where he is. And then like they just walk off of that set and onto the cave set right next door.
The camera just like pans over and like past like the edge of the set. That would be weird, but funny. So, Kira makes an emotional goodbye and tells Odo she hopes he finds what he's looking for. And then Odo goes to the cave set where Laz is hiding, but he says he's not going to come with him on the quest. And Laz is like, but even Kira knows you don't belong there. That's why she helped me escape. And Odo's like, sure, you could look at it like that. Or you could see that what she did proves that humanoids are capable of a kind of selflessness that you will never possess or understand.
Yeah, it makes me feel bad for that lady that he was married to. I was like, I feel like that couldn't have been a happy situation.
Yeah, I think she did the right thing, dumping him.
Yeah, almost certainly.
But Laz is not moved, so Odo wishes him well and offers him one last link, which Laz turns down. Back in her quarters, Kira is praying to the prophets to keep Odo safe when Odo comes in. I guess he didn't tell her that he was going to turn down Laz's offer.
No.
Or he changed his mind on the way to the meeting or something.
He just let her think that he was leaving forever. And then he came back and he found her with like the guy from the copy shop on the promenade. And she was like, but we were on a break. And he was like, what?
Yeah, people being on a break. That's all the rage in the 90s TV shows.
And then he wrote an 18-page front and back letter about like how it was all her fault, and it went well.
Yeah, but no, Odo's here now. He's picked life with Kira. Kira says, well, if I ever made you feel like you can't be yourself around me, I'm sorry. I always want you to feel free to be your real self with me. So Odo transforms into goo form and then starts to glow and turns into like a mystical glowing swirling mist that Kira puts her arms up and kind of twirls around in. And it's a little bit goofy, but it's a tender emotional moment, so we'll look past that.
Yeah, so there's lots of notes about this scene.
Okay.
So the first one is Renee Echevarria actually originally wrote a scene where Odo envelops Kira for the 5th season episode, A Simple Investigation, and it was Odo and Orissa. But Irish Stephen Bear is like, no, we want to see like Odo with like doing it as a solid. That's real important to the story somehow. So
even though it made no sense and raised lots of questions for us.
Yeah. And then, but now when Echevarria puts it in here, he's like, "Oh, I'm actually really glad we didn't use that because it's much more meaningful right here, and it moved their relationship to a new level with where he's not trying to be human like her; they're more meeting halfway somehow, and you can see on her face that she's experiencing something special." And Renee Auberjonois is on set with Nana Visitor when she's filming this, and afterwards he's like, "Man, you make me look like such a great lover." So he was complimenting like the look on her face, I guess, like her acting in this bit. So
whatever he was doing as that glowing mist, it was really doing it for her.
It was. And so the next note is that this weird glowy lights is not their first thought when figuring out how to do this scene. So David Stipes, who's I think he's doing the effects or something. I don't remember, but he's quoted in here saying, "At first the producers wanted to have Odo on the sofa, and then he turns into goo, and Kira like snuggles into it."
Yeah.
And then it says everyone thought, "Ugh, that sounds disgusting." So then they decided to have snow fall on her. And he says, "Well, that sure sounded warm and reassuring." So nobody knew what the heck to do. Finally, I was talking to my wife, Patricia, and she recounted the story about how she'd first seen the Aurora Borealis in Michigan and how beautiful it had been. And so that's how they decided to go with this. And then there's a deeper explanation of like his wife, and she's like up on the Upper Peninsula and walking around a Great Lake. And then she looks up and sees the Aurora Borealis, and she's a teenager and like doesn't really know what she's seeing or like hadn't really expected it or whatever, and she's just so shocked by the beauty that she falls to her knees and is like, "Oh my god."
Oh wow.
And so they're like, we want like that moment in here.
Sure. Good inspiration.
Yeah. And so they did this, and there's actually a big long thing about like the technical stuff about doing it, and they had like multiple different production companies involved in doing all of this just right, but I won't go into all that. Basically, a lot of work went into this scene. A lot of thought is the overall.
I mean, you think you could just like, put in like an effect, but I guess it's harder than that.
Yeah, it does seem like, that I don't. It's the 90s. All the computer generated imagery was harder back then.
True. I mean, they made that like flying space fish with no problem, but the glowing, sparkly mist, I guess, was tougher.
I guess part of it is like the camera's moving, I think. And so like, we had to do this rotoscoping and
there's no motion tracking back then. But yeah, so they do that. Meanwhile, Laz goes off on his quest to find the rest of the 100, who I assume will probably all find him absolutely insufferable and tell him to get lost. But not before Laz unknowingly infects them all with the changeling virus. The end.
What? How could he do that? He wasn't infected with the changeling virus.
Oh, right. I forgot. Yeah. He definitely did not have the changeling virus and never had any chance to contract it during this episode.
Yep. And, I sure hope that we see him come back and resolve this story thread before the end of the series.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Let's see. There's a couple notes about the reception on this episode.
Okay.
Renee Echevarria says this is probably one of his 5 Star Trek shows that he's done that he's most proud of. It was a hard row to hoe, he says. And then another quote from Echevarria where he's like, "Yeah, this turned out to be one of my favorite episodes. It's a good example of how we don't guide DS9 so much as it guides us. My assumption when I sat down was if there's a problem between Odo and Kira, it's Odo's problem. Since he's only pretending to be human, something would be missing in the physical intimacy for them. And then I realized it was the opposite. It was Kira's inability to be with him in a way he could with another changeling. And in the end, Odo transforms, and they link in some way."
Sure. Yeah, so. Like the, I don't want to go into the disturbing, like, realities of how intimacy must work between them, who would be getting more out of it than who, but was that all your notes?
That's all the notes. Sorry,
right.
I just finished looking through. Yeah, that's everything.
All right, so review time.
Yep. What did you think of Chimera?
Okay.
Chimera, however you pronounce it.
Whatever. So I get the point of the episode, and I respect it, which is, like you said, we're trying to tempt Odo into the changeling lifestyle without having the obviously evil Dominion be his excuse. So I think that was a good character beat for Odo. The main thing I do like about this episode is seeing some of the creative uses for changeling powers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, fire form, fog form, aurora borealis form. All that stuff is cool. And,
space creature.
Yeah. Learning that, changelings really have, because we've heard like Boom Boom Parkins and people talk about how like changelings are superior and godlike in all these different ways. But I think this really kind of demonstrates like how transcendental the changeling existence can be or something like that.
Yeah.
But for me, the character of Laz is just so insufferable. And the fact that he never learns any kind of lesson and he just continues being an asshole through the whole episode just really annoys me. It's just a very annoying episode to watch. And I find it very difficult to believe that Odo would actually be tempted by Laz after spending this amount of time with him.
He's like, you know what? I do want to go off and find the others of the 100, but can we maybe go different directions?
Yeah. It's like, how about we split up and we'll meet back up in like 500 years and see what we found.
Yeah.
And also there's some good like Rene Aubergenois, Nana Visitor, a lot of good moments from them. So
yeah.
Like acting wise. So I like that, but the episode was just too much of a pain to watch. I'm going to have to give it a Lieutenant Junior grade.
Okay.
That's my feeling. What do you think?
Okay, so Laz is insufferable.
100%
agree. You don't like him, and he, like you say, he never learns any kind of lesson about why his behavior is just unacceptable. Odo never, like, hardly in any way calls him out on, yes, okay, we're different from them, but that doesn't mean that you need to be an asshole to them. Like,
okay, I'll say this. There's no reason for Laz to be a changeling supremacist for the purposes of this story.
Okay.
Like, he could just totally be a changeling who comes and maybe sees that Odo is having some difficulties or something and being like, hey, I see, like, you're not always able to connect with these solids you hang out with. I'm not either. Why don't we run away together or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know why this weird philosophy has to enter into it.
He could have been like an earnest, decent dude. And you could still even have, like, the Klingons could have legitimately tried to kill him and he killed in self-defense. And then Odo's like, he's not going to get a fair trial. We can't leave him like that. I feel like that actually would have been like you would have felt Odo's conflict more if this guy wasn't an asshole that you're like, clearly you don't want to spend any time around that guy. So yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they felt if they made him too nice or too sympathetic that it wouldn't be believable Odo didn't go with him. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't like watching the episode for that reason. It does have a lot of good stuff in it.
Right.
It's got, like you said, like, I feel like this is really good for Odo's character. It's also really good for his relationship with Kira. You're getting to see, like, usually, honestly, that relationship is kind of insufferable, like you felt since the beginning, quite honestly. And here, you actually get a feel for, like, these two caring about each other and wanting to do things for, like, what's best for the other person or whatever, right? So you're like, oh, I actually, maybe for the first time, see, like, this relationship in a positive light. That's all good. I felt like we could have done with more of the rest of the cast, honestly. Like, relegating most of them to, like, that one scene in the bar where they get to say, hi, this is my name, and then practically nothing else. Felt like a missed opportunity to me. It could have been a much bigger conflict about, like, these are people Odo likes and respects, and if you're going to make this guy an asshole, he's going to be an asshole to them, and, like, draw it out a little more. But yes, all those reasons, it's definitely below the line for me. I think I'm going to call it a lieutenant, just a straight lieutenant.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely the best Odo and Kira stuff we've ever seen, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's ever been handled quite... they've tried to handle, like, well, Kira's not a changeling, so can she fulfill Odo and stuff like this? But, I don't know. There's just some real, like, emotional honesty or something about it that really worked this time. I don't know. All right, so, we'll wrap it up there. So that's our discussion of Field of Fire. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of... What's a good Odo episode?
A Simple Investigation I mentioned earlier. Got some good Odo in it.
Was that the one with the girlfriend?
Yeah, that is the one where he falls for the girl who's like secretly a different species and doesn't even know it.
Or what's that one where he and Garrick go off and find the secret Obsidian Order plot and all that stuff?
The die is cast.
Right. So that one was the die is cast, and the one after that was...
Yeah, hold on. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the die is cast is the next one and the one before. I always mix those, which one is which, up. Hold on. Let me bring that up real quick. No, okay, the die is cast is the second one of that duo of episodes. The one before that is Improbable Cause.
Oh, okay. So, although the die is cast has some good Odo stuff in it.
Oh, man, that's got Odo being tortured, you know?
Oh, yeah. So, didn't he have some sort of special technology to torture Odo with? Whatever happened to that?
Well, yeah, that's like... So it turns out that the Obsidian Order invented that in secret because, like, guy pretending to be a Romulan is like, wait, what's this? You can stop a shapeshifter? And then the Obsidian Order was destroyed, so I guess that technology was lost.
Okay, so that's gone. All right.
That did occur to me watching that episode again, like, man, we should have used this, Like, can we develop, like, Garrick and Odo know that this is a thing. Can we not develop that and then use that to stop shapeshifters at various facilities?
Yeah. I mean, apparently, Section 31 is out there at some facility somewhere with, like, captured changelings, putting them through all kinds of horrible stuff. So,
according to Picard, yep. Yeah.
As we learned Picard, so...
I'm not clear. I don't know if that's before or after. I guess it's before this point, because that's how... we won't get into spoilers, but yeah.
But yeah, so you can listen to our reviews of those wherever you're listening to this, and also you can go to the YouTube channel. You can leave us a comment on there, but if you're on the YouTube, we also are available on all the audio platforms, and you can go listen there. So whatever you want to do. But my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you next week on Undeclared Bajor. But remember, don't be a menacing fog.